Today, we're diving into a fascinating question. How many countries actually gained independence from the British Empire?
It's more than most people realize. Depending on how you count, the number is over 60. The British Empire really was that vast.
Absolutely. It spanned every continent except Antarctica. I always find it wild to think about how their influence reached so many corners of the globe.
Me too. And the process of gaining independence was different everywhere. Some countries negotiated peacefully, others had to fight for it.
Right, for example, India's independence in 1947 was huge and quite dramatic. The partition, the movements, it was history in the making.
And then you have countries like Canada and Australia, which gradually gained independence through legal reforms. No wars, just lots of paperwork.
I love that contrast. It shows how the relationship with Britain was never one size fits all. Did you know the United States was actually the first major colony to break away?
Yes, in 1776, they really set the tone. After that, the dominoes started to fall, though it took decades for others to follow.
Africa saw a big wave of independence in the mid-20th century. Ghana led the way in 1957, right?
Exactly. Ghana was the first sub-Saharan African country to gain independence. After that, the 1960s were absolutely packed with new nations emerging almost every year.
Sometimes I wonder what it must have felt like, living through that era. So much change, hope, and uncertainty.
I bet it was a mix of excitement and chaos. Imagine waking up one day to a new flag and national anthem.
Speaking of flags, have you noticed some countries kept certain British symbols, like the Union Jack in their flags?
Yes, like Australia and New Zealand. It's a nod to their colonial past, but they've also developed their own identities.
Then there are countries that went for a total rebranding. New flags, new names, even new capitals sometimes.
Zimbabwe is a good example. It used to be Southern Rhodesia under British rule, but after independence in 1980, it changed everything.
The Caribbean region is interesting too. Many small islands gained independence, but some chose to stay as British overseas territories.
Right, like Bermuda and the Cayman Islands. They're still connected to Britain, but in a totally different way compared to before.
I suppose for some, the practical benefits outweighed the symbolic need for full independence.
Exactly, and the UK's approach also changed over time. At first, they resisted independence, but later on, they often supported transition processes.
The Suez Crisis in 1956 was a real turning point. After that, Britain realized it couldn't hold on to its empire forever.
That's true. The world was changing fast. The United Nations also played a key role in supporting decolonization.
Do you have a favorite independence story?
I think Singapore's is fascinating. It was first part of Malaysia, then kicked out and left to fend for itself. Now look where it is.
Yeah, Singapore is a powerhouse now. Shows how independence can launch a country in new directions.
Sometimes the path isn't smooth, though. Some countries struggled with civil wars or unstable governments after independence.
Definitely. Just because you're free doesn't mean all the problems disappear overnight.
But gaining control over your own destiny is a big deal, no matter the challenges.
Which region surprised you most when learning about British decolonization?
Probably the Middle East. Iraq, Jordan, and others all have British roots in their modern formation.
Even places like Egypt and Sudan, which had complex relationships with Britain, eventually carved out their own identities.
It's also interesting how language and legal systems linger. English is still an official language in many former colonies.
And the legal systems. The concept of common law is a British export, for better or worse.
Cricket, too. Who would have thought a British sport would become a national obsession in India or the Caribbean?
That's the quirky side of history. Legacies you wouldn't expect. Food, sports, even driving on the left.
So, back to our big question. Over 60 countries gained independence from Britain. That's a major footprint on world history.
And each story is unique. Some celebrate independence with huge festivals. Others have quiet reflections.
I think the lessons from these independence movements still resonate today. Self-determination, national pride is us, and the complexities of building a nation.
It makes you wonder, if history had gone a different way, how different would our world look now?
That's a great thought to end on. For our listeners, which independence story fascinates you the most? Or how do you think colonial history still shapes our world?
Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, keep exploring those big questions.
And remember, history is always closer than you